strategic move that Eddie is making for AJ? Why are you not thinking, let's get him set up for
kind of animal? If that was years and years and years ago. Like, Clarissa is a way different fighter from when she was back in the
Thanks to those joining me live and to those that will be joining me on our
defenses that she's had to have recently. You know, she's pulled people.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the RoundTable about tribalism. I don't think tribalism is necessarily bad. I just don't think it has to be.
I don't know what he think he sees or what he think he know. But he going to the hospital, bro. Like, bro, you not winning that fight.
You guys mentioned, I think, D-Style, you mentioned him versus Regis Program. I'd love that. Sounds like a
old. I don't need you, you know, and PBC and others, in my opinion, it's like, oh, this is my guy. Like, there's a relationship.
Flat out, it's tough, and we call box, and we go to the end of the round, and then
that would say, what do you mean by acting black? That's a fair question, but a participant of trash talk knows.
And they're announcing a fight 3-4 months from now, and he ain't gonna fight. I bet you anything, he's not gonna fight somebody as good as John Ryder. Thanks to those joining me live and those of you joining me on the archive. D-Style here. This is the 170th edition of the RoundTable. If you're listening on the archive, hit that like button. Share this video on all your social media platforms, and we definitely appreciate the support. Being joined by the one and only Calix. He's here in the building. Shout out to him, one half of HCP. And, of course, Joe Habib from Ringside Reporter. She got a show every Sunday with his co-host Eric Lorda, and of course next week the RoundTable will be on his channel as well. Mario Munguia from Infight Hub, make sure to subscribe to his all his social media platforms, and of course Lyndon from Boxing Deep Dive, subscribe to his YouTube channel. You can also follow him on Instagram as well. That's their Boxing Deep Dive. Let's go ahead and get this one started. I want to start off with a sign that was done. Big news. Matchroom has signed Subriel Matias, the Puerto Rican sensation, I guess you want to call him that, is no longer with PBC, he's now with Matchroom, and he is, I think he made the right choice. There's a lot of options for him. I think it made sense for him. So it looks like the rumors of a potential William Paro fight is becoming more of a reality. And I think that is a hell of a fight if it were to happen. Lyndon, to start with you, what do you make of the signing by Matchroom? And is that a fight you would like to see?
Yeah, no, 100%, mate. Look, great signing by Eddie Hearn, adding to the stable, of course. You know, the more good fighters you get in the stable, the better fights you're able to make, of course. And, yeah, look, really excited. If this fight does happen with Liam Paro, I really think it's a good fight for both. I know Liam Paro is still relatively unknown in the States. And relatively unknown here still in Australia, apart from the hardcore fans. But this is a young kid who he's got great hand speed, great footwork, good power. And I think as good as Matias has shown that he is, I think it's a really winnable fight for Liam Paro. Maybe the most winnable out of all the fights. Arguably, you could put Rolly Romero in there. But I think it's a really good fight for the fans and also a very, very good opportunity for Liam Paro. And as I said, I just think he has the ability and the skill and whatever it takes to win the belt. And Matias has shown that he's durable, he's tough, very hard to shake. But I really think with Liam Paro's versatility and, as I said, his hand speed and footwork, I think a very, very good chance to win that belt. And yeah, let's hope we get to see it very soon.
Well said. Joe Habib, talk to us. Big signing by Matchroom. What do you think of the move? And do you foresee that William Paro fight, and do you like it?
Paro fight's a beautiful fight. It's a can't miss. It's going to be as good as long as it lasts. Paro, I don't believe will give up, will give in. I think he'll be there till the end. I think he can make it interesting. I think he can make it exciting. I don't think he'll win the fight, but maybe I would be wrong. I've been wrong before. But Matias definitely is going to have options over there. He's going to have Prograys there. He's going to have Richardson Hitchens. Jack Catterall is over there as well, too. There's just so many guys over there, right, that he could fight. And I think that he'll be busy. And that's what he needs to do, right? He needs to stay busy. I think PBC was not able to give him the fights that he needed, right? I don't think Raleigh was going to fight him. I don't think anyone over there was going to fight him, really, right? So he had to do what was best for his career. And, people love to get involved in this promoter versus that promoter, this broadcaster versus that broadcaster. It all depends on the weight class you're in, and what that promoter has, and what that promoter has for you. You go where there's fights for you, right? And I think Matchroom is the best place for him at this particular time. I really believe that. And then, if he decides to go up to 147, then eventually he may have to, jump ship again. But you just go where the actual fighters are in your weight class. It's that simple,
Well said. Mario Munguia. First of all, what do you think of the signing? And when it comes to William Paro, like a fight I think about is the Anyan fight where Matias was hurt visibly. Even though Matias won the rematch, at least statistically, he doesn't seem to be like a big puncher, Anyan. Yet he was able to hurt Matias. You think William Paro, who has pretty good power, can maybe pull off an upset there?
Yeah, I think that, it's a good fight, and I think he is a live dog in that fight. I think that, touching on what Beeb said, it is about who can do more for you as a promoter. And look, I'm really, really tired of the shitting on PBC narrative. Not that like they don't deserve it for a lot of crazy stuff they've done and continue to do, but it's just that like anytime you say this thing, it's like a blanket statement, right? If I say something about Jamal Charlo, which is absolutely deserving because he's absolutely been absent from the sport, it's now it's indicative of Tank. Now it's indicative of every single PBC fighter that's ever had success. You know what I'm saying? So, but I'm going to make this point, and this is, I think, the end all be all. Matias is now in a position where he is one of many fighters on a roster with a single, I'm not promoter, distributor or network, right? When PBC first started, they were doing, they were buying up TV spots, right? And they had so many networks, and yet they still had trouble finding room for every single one of their fighters to fight consistently. Kid Chocolate, the Charlos, all those guys, had a real problem staying consistent, right? This is the same situation, except there is no other networks. You know what I mean? There is no, you have to fill this content on this day or this network. That's not the way it's going to work with Prime or DAZN or any of these streaming apps anymore. So you have to go with who's going to work with the people that the fights are. You look at these, rankings, and you go down the list of his, weight class: Haney, Lopez, Prograis, Hitchinson, Garcia. Matias is actually at 6. Ramirez, Romero, Jermaine Ortiz, like all these names, none of them are with PBC for the most part. You know what I'm saying? So these are where the fights are. At least Matchroom has worked with Golden Boy and Bob Arum. Oscar was on DAZN TV the other day, essentially begging Al to work with him, to work with others. So I think it's a win for Matias for sure.
Calix, what do you think of the move? And any other opponents? I mean, do you want your due, Regis Prograis, to get in the ring with Subriel Matias?
Love the move for both sides. Obviously, Eddie's trying to stack the deck, and he's stacking the deck at 140 for sure, and he's trying to build up this side of the pond as far as his roster, right? So this is good for him, but it's also good for Matias, who I saw an interview with him a day or two ago where he was sort of complaining about PBC not delivering for him in the last couple of fights and what they promised. And on top of that, they were sort of offering him fights at 147, and he's a 140 fighter and he wants to take over 140. So it's good for him. And he obviously has access to a lot of fighters now. So not only the people that I think, Beeb, you named some of them: Catterall, Hitchens, Prograis, a possibility, because he's the type of guy now who's seen as used goods by a lot of people, right? And as long as he doesn't price himself out of fights, then he's going to get fights now. But also Barboza, Ramirez, he has access to them. And on top of that, it looks for the foreseeable future, unless Haney fights in Saudi, that Haney's going to be a DAZN fighter, right? Because it seems like Bob hasn't had some nice things to say about the Haney and then Bill Haney kind of take shots back at him. So I don't know if he'll go back to top rank at least in the foreseeable future. So I think he's going to be a DAZN fighter. So that's another possibility. So he's got access to a lot of fights at 140. And just like Mario just said, as long as Matchroom and Golden Boy are working together, I like how the DAZN schedule is coming about right now. It's much better than what they put together last year. Although they did put together a lot of fights last year, the quality wasn't up to par, and it's getting there now. And as long as Matchroom and Golden Boy, Eddie and Oscar can find a way to get together, they can make a lot of good fights together. And it's a 5-fight deal as well, and they promised him activity. So Matias just need more than the opponent. They need to keep this guy in people's faces. This is an action fighter, and you need to turn him into an action star. And whether he wins or loses, he can become that no matter what his ceiling is. So as far as a Paro fight, real quick, he's an 11-1 favorite against Paro. I think that's overinflated. Paro's that's a tough cookie. He is a tough fighter. And D-Style, you were talking about that with Glenn Jennings. And that's why I asked him about that. Even some of these Australian fighters who are coming over here and losing, as far the guy who just fought in Billy, that dude is tough. Like these Australian fighters that are coming over here now, it's a different breed of Australian fighters. So do not sleep on Paro in that fight.
Okay. All right. Look, I'll just say this. I like the move. I know what Charlie is like, oh, he has no idea what he signed up for. I know what you mean. Like he's about to get exposed or lose. I don't know. But all I can do is praise a fighter if he's going towards a direction where there's more competition. Like, you know what I mean? Like if it's tougher fights, that's what great fighters should be able to do. You know what I mean? Now, as far as Paro not being confirmed, I completely understand that, HLD. But I mean, that's what the rumors were. But it's definitely more possible now than it was before. But there's also other fights, a Regis Progress fight, maybe in New York in his first fight. There's a lot of things that they could do, and that's a hell of a fight too, by the way. And so we'll see. And of course, I know B mentioned, he forgot to mention Haney. Haney's another possibility. And there you go. All right. Let's go ahead and proceed here. Deontay Wilder came out and said, let's just add to the history of Wilder making excuses, but this one, jet lag, right? 20 hours of traveling. That's hard to do. All right. Of course, the stories on Boxing Scene, you guys can check it out. Joseph Parker responded saying that's nonsense. I've traveled all the time. It comes with a territory. You as a fighter should know this. Now, Wilder should also know better. He was an Olympian, right? Deontay Wilder fought in the amateurs where you travel a lot, and it's not like it's foreign to him. I get it, as a pro, he had the luxury of staying home, aka the U.S., but can that really be used as an excuse, Babe? What do you think? What are your thoughts?
I'm going to blame it on the psychedelics, man. I mean, you can't be taking psychedelics before a fight. You know, they're going to calm you down. They're going to relax you. They're going to make you happy. He was smiling and happy the whole time down there. Like he was on vacation, right? He wasn't in like fight mode when he was down there. He thought he was on a vacation. He thought he was on a tour, man. That's what it was. My opinion.
Can't
be taking that type of stuff before a fight?
But I don't know. When are the excuses going to end with this guy? Every time he loses, there's something, right? I get a lot of fighters do it, but
they're never going to end.
I mean, this is the type of guy, man. When he forgot to do his homework, I mean, he made up all types of excuses. I was walking to school, and I tripped over a pothole, and then my homework fell into a manhole. I mean, I was lost. I can't go down the manhole and grab the homework. I mean, this guy's got more stories than Walt Disney. What do you expect?
All right.
I mean, it's the way it is. I love the guy. I would never say it to his face because he'd probably fold me up like a lawn chair. But I mean, I love the guy. What am I going to say? I can't believe all these things. I love I love TF too, man. But I know he didn't pop positive because of the boar meat. I mean, he took the Nandrol on. I mean, sometimes, things are the way they are. You can't believe everything. You can't believe everything someone says. Even if you like somebody, you can't ride with them 100%. Even some of the stories you tell me, I don't believe, but I still love you.
I mean, it's crazy. All right, Lyndon, You have experience as an amateur, as a Olympic style boxer back in your day. I mean, well, what do you make of these excuses from Deontay Wilder? And of course, he got hit back by Joseph Parker, saying that's nonsense. Well, what are your thoughts about it?
Well, I think as far as a 20-hour flight goes, Deontay, welcome to the world of us people that live down under or around that region. We do it all the time, even going over to the fights there. It's a marathon trip, but look, I think he's got a history, hasn't he, of these type of excuses. I think at some stage he has to either sit down and look at himself in the mirror, or maybe have someone sit him down and say, Deontay, I think there is reasons behind you maybe losing to Fury and now Parker. It's the fact that you've actually come up against two really world-class heavyweights and just been badly exposed. I mean, the Fury fight, I suppose you can excuse because all three fights were great fights, but the Parker fight, I just saw it as a guy who again came up against an elite heavyweight, didn't rate him, maybe overrated himself, which I think he's done for the majority of his career, and again he just got badly exposed. I mean, he barely won a round against Parker, and I just think I don't know about the whole game plan now. You're taking a limited fighter and making him back up, which even negates him even more. So, look, you can break it down as much as he wants. It could be the outfit that he wore, or the flight, or whatever vitamins or supplements he's taking. But at the end of the day, I think all fight fans can just see, hey, credit to him. He won a version of the title, defended it 10 times, but I think he's been, as they say, drinking a bit of his own bathwater, and he's just been exposed as a very, very average heavyweight. I think that's all you can say. So good luck to him. I hope he gets some sort of spark back, but at this stage, I think it's a long road back for Deontay Wilder.
Calix, do you think, do you kind of align with what Lyndon is saying, number one? And two, do you think a lot of this is just like denial? Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's just in this state of denial when he has to kind of come up with a reason why he lost to Joseph Parker when he was such a heavy favorite. You know what I mean?
I don't know if it's denial. I don't know if it's insecurity. I don't know if it's just feeding his fan base. I don't want to paint his fan base with a broad brush because it's the fringe part, but the fringe part is very loud and they have a lot of power in the YTBC. But I don't know if it's just continue to feed them because they'll believe it. I don't know what it is, but at this point, what are we on now? Like, it was gloves, it was costume, it was his trainer. That's my personal favorite. I think his trainer poisoned him. I don't understand that one, but we're on like excuse 2,735, and
the egg weight.
Beeb's right. He might blame psychedelics. I don't know anything about psychedelics. I've never taken one. I don't think I ever will. So I don't know what they do to you, but Lyndon touched on this, and it's the most confusing part to me about Deontay Wilder at this point is they're trying to, you talk about all the time, D-Style, they're trying to fix him, and you don't need to fix him. You just unleash him and turn him into Deontay Wilder and have this guy go forward and try to knock guys' heads off with the right hand. And that's it, because that's his game. It's good enough to get him where he is. So somebody, I wish I could give him credit for this. Somebody said on Twitter that Malik Scott turned Deontay Wilder into Malik Scott. And that's not good. And that's what he's done. Is Lyndon saying what we're all thinking is, why is this guy circling the ring and going backwards? I mean, just unleash him and have him fight that way. It's just his whole career at this point has become seriously confusing. And when I saw the tweet yesterday, or his interview with Ellie Seckback, and he said that Joseph Parker didn't do anything to him, so I'm ready to go. Well, he won the fight. I know that. So I don't know. I'm disinterested at this point, though, because the whole aura of Deontay Wilder seems to be gone. The aura was he's coming in there to knock your head off, and he's capable of doing it any second. Now he's like a weird boxer that they're trying to turn him into, and it's full of excuses. I'm out.
Yeah. Mario, are you out? Are you like desensitized to the Deontay Wilder excuses at this point? I mean, he was doing interviews. I don't know if you know this or anybody knows this. I mean, he was on 78 Sports TV saying, "I'm really an undefeated fighter because I've been cheated in every fight I've ever been in." Like, okay, well, I guess, you know, but what do you think?
I think he definitely believes that. Listen, I think that boxing is a world sport, right? If the Kansas City Chiefs said the week before the Super Bowl, you know what, we're not going to play the 49ers. We want to be the best in the world, so we're going to go play the best team in the Canadian Football League, they'd get trashed. Because the NFL football, American football is not a world sport. The best Americans are the best football players are Americans, and they come from recruited colleges in America. That's plain and simple. Boxing, golf, tennis, these are not those kinds of sports. These are world sports. We're fighting people, and that's why this whole narrative of Americans not going over, not fighting European fighters, Matchroom fight, that always bothered me. And I'll never forget where I feel like that seed kind of started. It was the Darrell Abraham fight. And no, not Abraham Froch. It was the Darrell Froch fight, and everybody screamed robbery. And since then, this narrative, it took off, and it started before that, but a lot of people my age and younger, this is where it like kind of took off. And now it's reached this point where people assume like American boxing is the boxing, and it's just not true. I'm not saying American fighters aren't the best and haven't been the best and couldn't be the best, sure, but it's a world sport. Deontay Wilder spent too much of his career with yes men, giving him these fights and making him feel like he was unbeatable, to the point that when he gets beat, he still feels like he's unbeatable. These excuses are crazy. They're wild. Listen, I've said this on the show a bunch of times. Me and Wilder do not have a great relationship. He said things to me in the past, death threats. Like, the dude's crazy. Okay. The dude's crazy. Yeah. He called me a fat Mexican. And so at the end of the day, yeah, he said,
Beeb hates that one because it has fat shaming. Beeb hates that.
And so listen, I'm never going to be like, I'm not going to take it easy. I don't give a shit. Like, he doesn't like me. And I'll be honest, I don't think his career has been as great as he thinks it is. I mean, listen, he's done great. He's been successful. I'm not going to knock that aspect of it. He might have the best right hand in the history of boxing. But all that aside, he is a terrible individual that says things that make zero sense. And that's the other aspect of this. Y'all are absolutely right. And so is the chat. He's feeding his rabid fans. And again, not all of Wilder's fans are crazies or anything like that. Khalek said it best. It's a fringe. But ultimately, it's like this Trump thing. I think Khalek said it today on Twitter. He called it the Canelo, the CDS, right? The Trump thing. And he said it was like Canelo. It's the same thing. Yes, thank you. It's the same thing going on here. People get deterred, and it's like this thing that you can't really unravel because the logic that they use just doesn't make sense. And Wilder is the king of illogical sense.
He's the most defeated, undefeated fighter.
Yes.
Yes. So really quick, Mario, Chicano wants some context. Well, why did he call you a fat Mexican? What's
that was out of
first of all, he hated me way before that. He said that I was critical of his role in the Joshua fight or lack thereof. I was at the time unsure of how much he wanted it, and I felt like he wasn't being logical about it. I made a bunch of comments about it. He told Ness not to have me on the show anymore, which of course Ness didn't listen to. And then I didn't go to Border Wars, which was a fight I was supposed to have over money, me and Ness. And Wilder, they went to his camp about 2 weeks later to prepare for the fight, and nobody asked him to. They had the camera on him. He stopped working out, turned to the camera and said, "This is for you, Mario, you fat Mexican. You can't fight, then why would you talk about boxing?" And then the death threat I don't want to talk about, but that was years later.
That's sad. And I don't know if y'all saw the new one. His brother is coming out against him. No.
Oh
yeah, I saw that, or I heard about it. Actually,
he banged his brother's wife, but it is what
it's not good either.
Yeah.
Allegedly, I don't know, but the brother's out there like, I can't believe he did this to me. I don't know why you put that on social media. But
and he and he rode for him harder than anybody at one point.
Yeah, you say he's the one that talked about the biopsy, the autopsy, right?
Yep, he was the first one to bring that shit up. It's crazy, bro.
Yeah, beat him so bad, he thought Fury killed him. Like, he was talking about an autopsy. Anyway, but hey, look, let's keep it moving. It is what it is. There'll be another excuse later on, I'm pretty sure. All right. Hey, let's talk about Teofimo Lopez and Ortiz aftermath. Look, it only did 500,000 viewers on ESPN. To put it on perspective, you brought this up the other day, Calix. Pedraza Lomachenko did $2 million on ESPN.
Yeah.
Right. Crawford used to do over $2 million on ESPN. Fights on the regular would do over $2 million. Boxing has not been able to do over $1 million on ESPN in a while. Now, so some may say that's the fall of television, and now we have the ESPN Plus app, and that's partially true, right? I'm not going to dismiss that, but nonetheless, very low ratings for this fight for Teofimo Lopez, who looks like he's not going to be the star that people thought he would be. The arena was not packed. They were dropping the prices, a lot of comp tickets, so it is what it is. With all that said, like, should Teofimo Lopez at this point let go of the whole Crawford fight? So should he just let that go at this point? There's really no incentive for Crawford to fight him, right, Alex?
You know what? I'm gonna play the devil's advocate there.
Okay.
Now he can petition to go up and fight Bud Crawford, and I'd like for Bud Crawford to call his just to see if it's cap or not. And if Teofimo starts to bring up catch weights and all this stuff, then you know it's cap, because we already know Bud Crawford's days at 147. He wants him to be over. But I'd like Bud Crawford to say, hey, if you want to come up to 147 to fight, then I'll stick around at 147 for one more time to beat you up, basically. But what we know about Teofimo is it's a lot more complex than just he fights up and down to level of competition. We know that at this point, but he does fight up for fighters. So I would expect a sharper Teofimo against Bud, who he wouldn't have to go and find, but eventually Bud puts him to sleep. And it would be a nice, it's weird to call Teofimo a stay busy fight, but I think for Bud, it applies. I think that would be a stay busy, like a big stay busy fight for him. The issue though is Top Rank, right? Is he burned that bridge. So I don't know how possible that is. I just don't know, but I wouldn't be against it.
Bob said he would do it.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be against it. I think it's fine. And it could give Bud needs to fight more than once a year, fellas. So if he's not the fight in May, maybe he is. Maybe he's the Canelo fight in May. I don't know. But if he's not, why? Okay, but let's say he's not. Then I think you explore that and you say, yeah, come on, Teofimo, let's do it. Let's go. And I think Teofimo's crazy enough to do it. And that's the good thing about Teofimo is he does want to fight the fights. It's always going to be up and down with him, and that's going to stop him from becoming the star, as D-Style said. He's just too inconsistent, but he wants to fight the fights, and if he wants to fight that fight, why not? Why not?
Well, that'll be the end of him. Mario, I also want to know from you if you think he should let go of the Crawford thing at this point. But what I want from you is, what's next for each guy here? Teofimo, what would you like to see next? And Ortiz, do you want to see him next?
Yeah, listen, as far as Teo dropping the Crawford thing, no, I don't think he should. I don't think he should get the fight, but I think you have to, in this era, continue to, I mean, like Ryan Garcia tank is essentially just call outs until it happened, and it got bigger and bigger. Like, you can't dictate necessarily how big a fight gets, except for in the ring, right? But you can do as much as you can outside of it. So I will never not respect him trying to, get those big fights. But at the end of the day, saying letting it go as far as it not being realistic, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think there's no way that Bud, really wants that fight. I think that, he's on to bigger and better things. And that's no offense to Teo. I think Teo is as well. Listen, Teo is in a great spot, if you really think about it, because he has given enough reason for the big fights to doubt that he is legitimate enough to beat them, right? So in a position where, remember like with Golovkin, everybody was like, oh, he's such a monster, nobody wants to fight him. And then they started saying, look, he's letting people hit him so that, it'll convince Canelo and Cotto to fight him. He's letting the offense get in. That's not what I'm saying about Teo at all. But it's the same kind of narrative. You know what I mean? That said, as far as what's next for Teo, look, he's got a huge stable of fighters he can fight. I think Khalek said it best. He needs to just stay busy. He needs to stay busy, stay in the ring, not be distracted by trying to be a garbage man or fake retiring or any of this bullshit. Like, he just needs to fight. He needs to understand that while he is an amazing fighter and he's already accomplished a lot of amazing things, the best of the best, the guys that are at the Mount Rushmore and right under, those guys either got better or kept their career didn't stale. Like they didn't, like Floyd Mayweather only got better over time, and his physical abilities were hindered. You know, he had bad hands, his footwork, you know what I mean? Like there was a lot of things going on behind the scenes that, you know, didn't mesh with the pretty boy Floyd style, and he evolved and he changed. Teo needs to learn or needs to evolve as well. I'm not saying into Floyd, but, you know, into whatever that next level is. As far as Jermaine Ortiz, look, I know a lot of people had a problem with it. I really didn't. I mean, yes, it could have been a way more exciting fight. Yes, I felt like Jermaine Ortiz didn't go out there and take it in the last few rounds, but I feel like there's a lot there. And I've seen this kid fight better. And by the way, there were moments in that fight where he decided to square up, and it was really exciting. And I'll admit those moments were far and few between. But ultimately, I think Ortiz deserves a chance to be back on TV. Not main event maybe, but co-main event, whatever, on TV. He does deserve another chance. If Rigondeaux got as many chances with HBO and everybody else, then so does he.
Okay. All right. Hey, Joe, I mean, you giving your thoughts on Ortiz and Teal, what do you like to see next all week? But if you want to touch on that, you can. But what I want to know from you is the Crawford thing. At this point, does he sound ridiculous, the one in the Crawford fight?
No, not at all. I mean, it's a big fight for him. It's not a big fight probably for Crawford. But as Kalik said, if there's no other option and Crawford does need a fight to keep himself busy, then it's something that could be done. But I think Crawford is a little bit disappointed in how Teo looked, and it's, you know, he's probably saying to himself, how do I sell this fight? You know, Teofimo Lopez, I think the problem with him is, you know, I hear a lot of people, Steve Kim said this too, like he's just trying to be a philosopher, like, and he does these like poems like roses are red, violets are blue. To all you people booing, I say fuck you. You know, it's like he's always got these like lines, like, and it just, I think people see when you're trying too hard. People see when you're reading off a script. People see when you're trying to be somebody you're not. And I think this kid is like that scared little kid who doesn't know who he is. It's almost like Arrested Development. And I don't want to be too psychological here, but you know, I watched an interview with Raleigh Romero, and it was quite telling how he was saying, yeah, you know, that whole family's all screwed up over there. They got a lot of problems. The guy used to call me in the middle of the night, and I used to have to talk him out of killing himself and stuff. It's just, I mean, I laugh at it, but it's just crazy. Like I laugh because like the way Raleigh presents these, Raleigh's a great storyteller, right? Like Raleigh's hilarious. I think Raleigh,
he's a great storyteller.
Raleigh's like, I love Raleigh, man. Like people don't like Raleigh. I get a kick out of Raleigh, man. I just like listening to that guy, man. He's nuts. But yeah, I never criticize a guy for wanting to fight, you know, a big fight or trying to negotiate the best deal for himself. But you know, that doesn't always mean he's gonna get it. But I'm gonna throw a curveball at you right now.
Okay.
You know, Shakur Stevenson called him out. Like he looked at that Jermaine Ortiz and he's like, damn, I could do that. Guy pretty much followed my blueprint, and I could do the same exact thing. Why not? I'll move up to 140 and fight this guy, grab another belt real quick. Why not? That's an easy fight to make, right? The whole Subriel Matias thing, I think style-wise, that's a great fight for Teo, because Teo is that pure counterpuncher. He doesn't like to initiate, doesn't like to fight, you know, outboxers. Right? He doesn't like to have to initiate the action. He doesn't like chasing, right? You don't have to chase Subriel Matias. Style-wise, that's a great fight for him. Style-wise, Devin Haney's a nightmare, right? So I think style-wise, probably the Shakur Stevenson fight's a nightmare too, but maybe Teo say to himself, you know, I can kind of overwhelm this guy. This guy, I don't believe hits hard enough to stop me. So I could probably walk him down. You know, I'm going to try something different this fight. I'm going to use my jab a little bit more. I'm going to attack this guy. I'm going to throw more punches. Right. So yeah, to answer your question, I know that was a little bit long-winded, but there's nothing wrong with him calling him out, but I don't think it's in the future for him. I just don't think Crawford's gonna take the fight.
Okay.
So,
Lyndon, what were you thinking, first of all, while you're watching that fight? Like, do you think maybe the talks of he just had a off night against Combozas was just excuses? Is that something you thought about? And what did you think of the tactics that Ortiz used in the fight? That's 2. And 3, do you want to? Are you even interested in a Crawford fight for Teo?
Well, I think as far as the Ortiz fight went, look, I think all fighters at the elite level are prone to a night like that. I think we expect sometimes that our favourite fighters and the superstars of the sport come out and perform, on 8 cylinders every single time. I think Lopez, as we know, he's an up and down character. He's on, he's off. He contradicts himself during the same interview. He's just an enigma, and I'm not basing my opinion on him on the Ortiz fight. I thought Ortiz fought, I suppose you could say, a smart fight because he made Lopez look pretty bad and arguably won the fight. I still think Lopez just did enough to get by. That's just me. I know that goes against a lot of people out there, but I think he just did enough because I think the tactics that he used were effective, but I don't think they were more appealing to the judges, which I think why it went Lopez's way. But that's a different story. But I'm not quite sure about the numbers, how it goes over there in the States with ESPN. Obviously, 500,000 is not great. We didn't actually get to see it over here, which was a shame. It was on a Friday afternoon here. So I'm not quite sure why it was on a Thursday. Is that because of the Super Bowl, I'm gathering? So we actually have our biggest fights on Wednesday nights over here, which is just on a side note, which is a little bit interesting. So it doesn't compete with the weekend sports. But look, I think, as I said, with Lopez, I think he is one of the best fighters in boxing. I think if you're for talent wise, I know his performances don't always measure up to that, but I have no problem at all with him calling out Terence Crawford. I mean, we always long for these the biggest fights in boxing. So why not call out Crawford? I'd rather that than some of the other boxers we get who just talk and talk and talk and nothing happens. We had years of Mayweather Pacquiao and we had years of all these other fights that never took place. So I welcome the fact he's actually talking it up about fighting Crawford. Whether it happens, probably not. But the thing is with Lopez as well, there's so many other really good fights in that division at the moment. So many great fighters around that 135 to 140, even up to 147 sort of weight division. So I'm not sure. Well, sorry, I do back that he's wanting to fight Crawford, but with other good fights around him, it's not that or bust. So I think we're going to see some good fights on Lopez going forward. It's probably a little bit like Gervonta Davis. Why he's talking about going to 147 and fighting Conor Benn, I'll never know, with so many other good fights around. But I'd rather them at least be hypothetical about making these fights and not talking about them at all. What was the other thing you asked me there, Eric? Sorry, I got a little bit off topic there. What was the other thing you asked?
That's fine. While watching that fight, where you kind of, because when he lost to Combozas, that there was a lot of reasons given. It was an off night, and I don't think Combozas got enough credit from a lot of people for that win.
Yeah.
So did that kind of thought come to mind while you were watching this performance?
Yeah, look, I've said all along with the Combozas thing. I even touched it on my show earlier this week that I know, especially in the States, he didn't get a lot of credit. It was viewed as an off night for Teo. I think I've never seen a fighter get so much into another fighter's head as I saw Combozas with Lopez. Lopez had no idea against this guy who he's probably never heard of before, never really seen fight before. This crazy Australian who had probably no right to be in that position, but was there, and he got into Lopez's head so much that he bought into George's style. And I think George just fought the fight of his life. And but I'm with you. I don't think he gets enough credit. And I know it's again off point, but I think he gives Lomachenko a little bit more trouble than what a lot of people out there think. But that's another story for another day. But look, I think for me, that was just a great performance by George. Yes, Teo probably took him not as seriously as he should, but not unlike a lot of other fighters in history as well, and he paid the price. So, but that should not take away from the fact that George Kambosos beat him on the night, man to man. I watched the fight just the other day, and that was a great fight, and George just took him head on and beat him. So, but that's not to say that Lopez is still not in, I think, in the pound for pound, probably top 12 to 15 fighters, and some big fights out there ahead of him as well.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that Ring magazine to take him off of the pound for pound after that performance.
I saw that.
Yeah, that is what it is. For everybody watching, make sure you hit the like button. We have 78 watching right now on YouTube. I'll appreciate the like, and thank you for tuning in and supporting the channel as always. Let's go ahead and talk about CaneloMania here. After weeks of rumors, we've narrowed it down to that he's fighting an American May 4th. By the way, May the 4th be with you. Okay. Shout out to all the Star Wars fans. But anyway, who do you ultimately think? Like, if you, I know none of us know, I get that. But if you had to guess, if you had to say one name, who is it, Mario? Who's he going to fight, Mario? Who's the odds-on favorite?
I really wish it didn't go to me with that one. I'm going to say Crawford. I mean, like, I don't know what else to say. It's like, it's going to be a big fight. We know that, or they've said that, right? It's an American, and it's in May. That's all we have from the Canelo camp. From Jamal's camp, he hasn't talked to Al Heyman since his last fight. I think that speaks volumes about their handling of Jamal. And I'm just going to make this real quick side point. That's not what PBC should have done. They should have seen these videos of what he had been doing and get closer, bring him closer, bring in people that can help him to distinguish from the bad moves from the good moves. But it doesn't seem like that's happened. And now he's in this position where he doesn't even, I don't even think he feels confident taking that fight. If it were me and I really wanted that, or not me, but if it were a fighter that I believe really wanted that fight, I don't think they'd come out and try to discredit the narrative. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to call out anybody, but remember, listen, I'm just going to make this really vague. Remember a few months ago, a streamer that we all know came out and said that he knew who Canelo's next opponent was, and it was going to be a Dominican fighter. That was not true. Sorry, guys. That was not true, right? But the Dominican fighter went with it. You know what I mean? Like, he was like, yeah, I am going to fight. Like, he believed it, and he believed in himself. And listen, that's cool, and that's fine. You know, whatever.
You want me to give him a shout out, Mark?
Shout out to Joseph Herring, baby. Woo!
No, listen,
it was
I'm not
Broadway Joe.
Yeah, it was
Broadway Joe.
Yeah, shout out to Broadway. Listen, it was, look, I'm not bringing that point up to bring that up. I'm bringing the point up that Jamal doesn't seem like he wants that fight, and I don't think it is Jamal. After Eddie Reynoso's interview today, I don't know if I'm more confused, because Eddie seems to believe that the PBC deal is fine and they're going to fight May and September. And then he even mentioned that after that, they'd probably negotiate a Saudi deal to fight there. That's where I assume the Crawford fight would be, because that's the fight that the Prince wanted. That's the fight that they contacted Canelo about. But now we're in this situation where PBC, and listen, the stuff going on that people are saying, or some people are saying about, you know, Canelo's guarantee isn't going to be met, and that he might not be with PBC. Listen, I don't know what is true and what's not. All I know is that Canelo and Eddie Reynoso seem to believe that they're going to be with PBC. And to me, that's as good enough as we can get. Like, there's no smoke at all. You know, people are just calling out fire. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the narrative now. It's like, well, it's just going to fail. Like, if you say PBC is going to fail for 3 years and you're eventually right, did you get it right? Or did you, at some point, you just fucking nailed it? You know what I mean? Like, at some point, you're going to be right. You know what I mean? Like, I could have said HBO was going to fail like 30 years ago. People would have looked at me crazy. And then when it happens at some point, am I going to be like, I fucking told y'all? Like, no, of course not. So this whole narrative is crazy to me. But man, Crawford's my answer, I guess.
Okay. All right. Calix, where do you stand right now? Who's going to be the announcement? And we know what he's narrowed it down to an American, but, you know, like if we ask Maestro, he's going to say America is anybody from South or North America. So we got to shout out to Maestro. But what do you think?
Whoa. I don't know. I have no idea. My advice to people on Twitter earlier was just...
We need an answer, though. Like, if you had to guess.
If I had to guess, I would guess Charlo for May, and then maybe... But I'm with Mario. I'm confused because...
It's not Charlo. It's not Charlo.
No, I hope you're right, Beeb. I hope you're right.
It's not Charlo.
But
so we got a Charlo.
You're constantly... Like, the Canelo news cycle is so crazy right now. Like, it's just out of control. And a lot of it is driven by the Canelo hatred, like that side of it. And then they start a news cycle, like purposely start a news cycle. And then you have people like Paulie Malignaggi, just his head explodes and he starts to call Canelo a duck and all this stuff. So my advice is just sit back and watch. But if you're asking me to predict this, I don't know. I don't know how to read this at all because like Mario was saying, I thought the Bud fight would be the Saudi fight. And they're talking about that possibly being after the 3-fight deal. And then you still got people out there saying they don't have funding, which I doubt for the PBC. But then even Samson was on the Espanol side of Pro Box TV that's debuting tonight. And the word is he's saying that Benavidez isn't in the plan for 2024, but we've heard that before, right? And then Munguia was on the table. Now Munguia is off the table. I'm just confused. And Charlo was supposed to be the fight in May, and Charlo is saying I'm not the fight in May. So is he capping? Has he been told to not say anything until Canelo announces, or do they not know? Canelo is saying he's going to announce it in a week or two. So Reynoso is saying there's 4 fighters on the table. And that's what he was saying is this morning. So maybe they haven't picked the opponent for May 4th. I have no idea. So I don't even want to make a prediction, D-Stock, because I'm confused.
Yeah. Somebody just said they're going to say it's Benavidez, but it's going to be Jose Benavidez. Come on. What are we doing here? But, okay. And then, of course, none of us know, but if you have to guess for May, do you have a feeling it's Charlo, Crawford, or Benavidez?
Well, I suppose like the other guys, I mean, who knows what's going to happen? But I think that we could all agree that the big announcement the other day was a little bit of a letdown. Didn't really get much at all. But look, I suppose you've got to break it down who it could possibly be. And my pick would have been Charlo, as much as I hate that fight. End of the day, that made the most sense. But now Charlo's actually said himself that he hasn't been contacted about the fight. Now, they might be playing games, who knows? But if it's going to be an American, you tell me, guys, does Benavidez qualify as an American? I suppose he does. He's born in America.
Good point.
So is it him? But apart from that, it all points to Terence Crawford. We've seen him back in training this week, Crawford. And it just points to Terence Crawford. I'm with the other guys thinking maybe it would have been September or maybe the one after that. But at the moment, if it is a American, it points to Terence Crawford, which would be fantastic. But I suppose time will tell. Let's hope we get an announcement within a couple of weeks because what is it? May the 4th. It's only, 2.5 months away. So let's see.
May the 4th be with you. But, Joe, I already know your answer, so give it to us. And why?
Crawford, May, Benavidez, September, man. It's what it is, man. That's what it is. Crawford's in training. He's training for the fight right now. Saudi already said they want the fight. Who's going to put up the most money? When Saudi wants a fight, no one's going to put up more money than them, right? It's going to be Crawford next, and it could be in Saudi. It's that simple. Benavidez is going to be there in September. And here's what a lot of the people are doing with Benavidez. They're actually building that fight up. Like they're like just like, oh, Mayweather's never gonna fight Pacquiao. But I had Mario. Who said that? Who told that fight was gonna happen that same year that happened?
You did, champ.
That did that?
You did, champ.
I had to sit on that for months, but then I just fucking released it. It's gonna happen.
Babe, do you think that? I'm sorry to cut you off, but do you think because I've heard other people say this too. There's probably more things going on behind the scenes. I think Reynoso kind of alluded to it. There's a lot, but there's a lot of business stuff going on behind the scenes as far as money and stuff like that.
I'm gonna decipher a little bit of that interview, and again, just what I took from it doesn't mean this is gospel. I'm not gonna be like some people and say that I know exactly, but. When he was mentioning about promoters and things about dealing with people from other networks, promoters, pretty much ruled out the Munguia fight for now, right? He pretty much addressed that, and then he specifically brought up Saudi, right? He said he didn't say we're going to do Saudi at the end. He said that is on the table, right? Crawford was already, according to somebody in his camp, Saudi called Crawford direct. Now Reynoso is confirming that Saudi's on the table as well.
Contact Canelo.
Yeah, they contacted Canelo too.
And
again, if Saudi wants a fight, who is going to stop them from getting it?
You don't play big bank with little bank with Saudi. They're gonna win.
There's just too much money on the table. And guess
if you
what?
listen,
Guess what? There's just as much. I don't want to say there's just as much people that want the Crawford fight than the Benavidez fight, but I do agree. I think D-Style mentioned this. I don't want to put words in his mouth. That Crawford fight could be bigger than the Benavidez fight based off of how much Crawford's profile has grown since that Spence fight. He's been everywhere.
He was on the Dave Chappelle thing that the last comedy special.
He's everywhere. Joe Rogan, CBS in the morning interview.
Today Show.
He's everywhere.
There's a couple of things here. Look,
Breakfast Club.
I'm also hearing more people are actually picking Crawford to win than Benavidez.
Yes.
Like as far I know that's anecdotal or whatever, but I'm seeing more people actually say, I actually think Crawford could pull that off. Whereas they are saying Benavidez is dangerous, Benavidez has earned it, he deserves it, but not a lot of people are really like when it comes down to it, they're like very few are actually saying Benavidez will win. So I think that's something to take into account. Here's what I'll say. A couple of things about the Reynoso interview. So he did mention Saudi as a possibility. He's not just the trainer of Canelo, he's also his manager. Okay. There's no good reason for him to rule out anything. Right. So of course he's going to say, yeah, Saudi, of course. Yeah, we're open to it. Because you know what that does? Because now MGM's going to have to offer them more money for the site fee. Like, you do know Saudi wants us over here, right? So what do you have to offer? Like, all of a sudden, the site fee's going up now. Canelo did say it would be in Vegas. I do believe it's the odds-on favorite to be in Vegas. I do feel that way. Unless Saudi really comes up with a big offer.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing, D-Style. I think me and Beeb are going to be on the same page here.
Can I say one thing quick, Alex?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm so sorry to cut you off. There's no venue rented. There's no venue rented. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if it could be that. I'm not saying you're wrong, but there's no venue. Like they usually will rent. Like if they knew it was going to be in Vegas because they already have the date, they would already have a venue rented out, like reserved. That's
yeah, but don't you think that since it's Mexico, they bend over? I agree with you 100%. It's strange and it would be weird. Yeah, they have the date.
They have the date. Usually they'll reserve the
venue. No, of course. But I just feel like
I just want to clarify when I say MGM, I'm talking about MGM Resorts, right? Because they own the T-Mobile Arena, MGM Grand. I don't know what it's called now. Is it the Bud Light or Miller Light? Well, whatever it is, where the Mandalay Bay was. Like they own all those arenas. Like someone's gonna get a Canelo fight, and none of them are gonna be like, nah, sorry, we're booked. Like it'll happen. Like I don't have a doubt about that.
They could get it. They could get a Vegas venue. I'm not saying that, but my question is why? Like normally they would have one in place if they had the date. That's why I still think Saudi's a major player in this next fight.
Well, go ahead, Kelly.
No, I was going to say that, and I don't think you can, like I said, play big bank, little bank with Saudi. I don't think that's the thing to do. I don't think if they're going to win that, number one. And I don't think this guy, Turki Al-Sheikh, is the guy to use as leverage against. I don't think you want to burn that bridge. I don't think you use that guy over there as leverage to get, huh?
But they're not going to know he's being used as leverage. How would
you don't think he's going to know that Canelo is using him as leverage to get more money for a venue in Vegas? I just don't think Canelo is going to play that game with that guy. I don't think that's the guy to play games with. I just don't. And I'm not saying This
If
I'm
Canelo
not
was a fighter
saying.
that needs him like that, maybe, but he don't need Saudi Arabia to make.
But what
tens
if
of
he's
millions of dollars.
offering him $100 million? I
Well,
don't know.
let me make one real quick point, because when I heard the interview with Reynoso, it really felt like what he was trying to say was that Canelo has picked up on what's going on with Saudi, and he kind of said something in the sense of like Saudi, like the new boxing movement or something like that. Like, I think Canelo's in a position where he's looking and he's like, whoa, wait a minute. What are those heavyweights making? Wait, what is Saudi paying? Okay, well, you know what? Maybe I will fight over there. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things, I think. And the fact that Reynoso said that specifically, that Canelo is interested in what's going on over there, I think that speaks really highly of what he's thinking right now.
Another thing Reynoso did say in the interview, just to put it out there, he brought up, like the interviewer asked him, ideally, who would you like to see Canelo fight? And he brought up Benavidez, and he said, look, I know there's a lot of talk about Canelo being scared of Benavidez. He ain't scared of anybody. He never has since he was 15 years old. He brought up Mayweather even. He said he fought Mayweather at 22 years of age. Does that sound like a guy that's scared of fighting opposition? So he did bring that up. And so I do think what that speaks to is he went out of his way to bring, like, the interviewer didn't ask him, hey, well, what's up with Benavidez? Are you scared? Like, he brought that up himself. They're hearing it. They're hearing the noise from the Paulie Malignaggi's, Teddy Atlas's, the public, a lot of the Mexican legends just bringing up, why doesn't Canelo want to fight this guy? What's going on? What's the holdup? So they are hearing that. You know what I mean? I just wanted to point that out.
And that's healthy. It's healthy for him to hear that.
It builds the fight, like you said, D-Style, because it makes, when people are saying those things, it builds up the fight, because then you're like, you know, you got these guys who are going to be like, okay, we're putting this guy's, legacy to the test here. This passing of the torch. I would think that would be the second biggest fight for Canelo outside of the Crawford fight, in my opinion. And I don't think it would be. I don't think it would be. Well, maybe it would be far behind if the Saudis are footing the bill for the Crawford fight. But
yeah,
I don't know. Who knows? Maybe they would do. Maybe they'll do too, but eventually he is going to be back in Vegas. But the crazy thing is, when did you ever hear Reynoso ever bring up Saudi?
Yeah, exactly.
He never brought up that, like, because Saudi's been around for a couple of years. I mean, they've kind of ramped things up, recently.
Sure,
they've been around for a couple of years, and now, like, now they reached out to Canelo, and it's like, wow, like this is promising.
I mean, he had to sit there while Tyson Fury and an MMA fighter had one of the most what's the word where it's like a spectacle? I don't know, whatever. It was this crazy spectacle. Yeah, it was a crazy spectacle of combat sports. And, he had nothing to do with it. Like, he wasn't the main attraction. I really think Canelo is like this competitive guy when it comes to everything in the ring, outside the ring, numbers, finances. Like, he wants to be the top of the top every time. And he knows that what he's seeing in Saudi is this lavish and almost like like they don't give a shit what they're spending. Did y'all see the WWE arena that they built for them? That shit was crazy. Undertaker has like a tomb in there. It's like this crazy fake tomb that they built. It's crazy.
When you see Ronaldo and those guys show up, it's a different party at that point.
It's a different vibe.
That's a different party. But I want to make this one last point. Let's assume Beeb's right. It's May 4th and it's Crawford. Weight class business shall hold up for no one. I think the sanctioning body should be pretty rigid. They should start getting more rigid, except for a few exceptions. And it really shouldn't matter at this point. And what I mean is, Benavidez is the mandatory, and that needs to be taken care of. And if it's not taken care of in a timely manner, then I would like the WBC. It would likely be a tough move for them to do, but they need to do it and say, look, we need to get this weight class going. And Benavidez, we need to strip Canelo. We need to give Benavidez a shot. I think in Billy is number 2. So that's good for boxing as a whole. If Benavidez versus Billy, great action fight, which we all expect Benavidez would win, but great action fight. And it even builds the fight even more. And Canelo can come right back around and fight for undisputed right after. It doesn't hold anything up, but But it sets the message that weight class business is held up for nobody. And it shouldn't be. And Benavidez has earned that shot up to this point, and he should get a shot at that belt if Canelo goes elsewhere. And that's just how I feel.
Look, I just want to make sure everyone understands. Another thing that Reynoso brought up in the interview, he did say when he was asked, who do you like to see him fight? He made sure to make this point, and it's a point a lot of us have made, right? Said, look, we all know Canelo's history. Like, he's always fought the best. At weight class after weight class after weight class. He's fought the best. He's fought the champions. He's unified. What would make anybody believe that he's not going to continue to fight the best, right? And then that after that, that's when he mentioned, this whole thing about him being scared of Benavidez. I just think that's signaling that there's an intention to fight David Benavidez. Another kind of clue that I've gathered was I saw some reports that Mauricio Sulaiman was asking Benavidez if he is willing to
wait till September.
Well, what's that about? I think he's gonna get his fight, and I think it's gonna be the Crawford fight. I don't think it's gonna be the Jamal fight. I know those, even though that's what the reports say, I get it. And if it is, then it is. But because I'm going by Canelo's pattern, okay? Did he fight Golovkin immediately after the Cotto fight? No, but 18 months later, he did, right? So eventually, he and in a timely manner, he does eventually fight the guys that we want to see him fight. That's his pattern. He's already had his gimmies in the last two fights. I don't think he's interested in doing that again. And I think he understands, and we understand how crazy trying to sell a Jamal fight is. If we're talking about he'll go to Saudi Arabia and look at all the money, why the hell would anybody with business in mind fight another Charlo that's inactive and try to sell that to people? If he's interested in maximizing the money he's going to make, like, a lot of people are not going to buy that like they would a Crawford fight or Benavidez fight. I think this is the year. I think this is when it happens. And until I see otherwise, that's what I'm going to believe. Okay. That's just how I feel about it. Let's go ahead and proceed here. We have a fight this weekend. All right. We have a fight this weekend. We have Shocky Foster's coming off that shocking 12-round stoppage of Rocky Hernandez, where he was behind on the card, and he gets a traumatic stoppage to win that fight against Abraham Nova, aka Supernova. They're going to fight. Calix prediction.
Shock Foster, and I'm really split on late stoppage or decision. Abraham Nova is a guy who's never been in a 12-rounder. He's known to fade. He has stepped up against Ramirez and he got knocked out. Even in the fight with Lopez, he had some moments where he struggled a bit. He squares up. And I really feel like this can turn into another action type of fight for Shocky Foster. And hopefully I'm right on that, because there's been some stinkers of fights that we thought were going to be good fights and they turned out to be stinkers, right? This, what I like about Shock Foster is his willingness to stay in the pocket. He will stay in the pocket and he will sit on some of his punches. Doesn't have great power, but he'll sit on punches. And he's one of the best stories in boxing that's just sort of flying under the radar, right? Got into some trouble, was left for dead in the boxing world after a loss, and puts together 11 straight victories, slowly climbs the rankings, and then has his shot against Ray Vargas, where he's a significant underdog, and wins going away. Yeah. And he's set up to lose in his title defense. That was the weird thing. He's set up to lose, to go to Mexico and lose in a small ring. Judges stacked against him, and he wins by comeback in the 12th round. And fight of the year, comeback of the year. And it was just a beautiful story that keeps going. And I think this is a good matchup for him. Now, Nova moving up to 130, he could have a little bit more power and legs at that division, but I think he fades, and Shock Foster does the opposite. If you look at the Ray Vargas fight and you look at the Rocky Hernandez fight, he came on late. He got stronger as the fight went on. So I think this trend will continue. And I'm kind of split between, I'm hedging. I'm going to put a little bit money down on decision for a good bit of money on decision for Shocky Foster, but I'm going to hedge it a little bit with plus 500 Shocky Foster by knockout in the through 12th round. That's how I'm gonna play it.
Ooh, okay, man, that's something. Lyndon, Oshaki Foster, Abraham Nova, 140-pound WBC title on the line. Who wins it?
I like the fight. I really do. I mean, who can forget the last fight with Foster and Hernandez? It was just I just watched it the other day actually, and that 11th and 12th round, just amazing. So we know that Foster's got heart. He's got durability. He'll hang tough the whole fight. He had to against Hernandez, of course. Nova, on the other hand, I agree with Calix a little bit there. He hasn't been 12 rounds before. I think a little bit limited as well. I mean, he can punch. He's got some tools, I suppose. But I just think if you're going to go head-to-head, I think that Foster – it will be a great fight, by the way, but I just think Foster gets on top as the fight goes on. I would probably expect him to win by decision or maybe late-round knockouts. But I think it'll be a great fight either way. Unfortunately, again, we don't get it here in Australia. I'll have to watch it on YouTube afterwards. Yeah, as I said, I think it'll be a great fight, and Sharky Foster for me in an all-action slugfest.
All right, okay. Shout out to Drew. Much appreciated, brother. To Samson just did an interview with Pro Box St. David. That's David Benavidez, not fighting Canelo in 2024. At Reynoso interviews Saint Sadi in December for Canelo. So much uncertainty, but give me Bud versus Canelo and Sadi. I'm there. Look, I still think Canelo versus Crawford domestically here does 2 million pay-per-view buys. People can say what they want. This is going to sound dramatic. I think it's the kind of Hagler Leonard of our era, in my opinion. I think it's that type of legacy fight, and people love legacy fights. But thanks for the support, brother. Joe, let me ask you this. Timothy Bradley made the statement on ESPN. He acknowledged that Oshaki Foster is the more skilled fighter, but Nova wants it more. And he said it more than once. He wants it more than Oshaki Foster. I'm just curious what your thoughts on that are, how Bradley could possibly know that. But second, who's going to win this fight, brother, in your opinion?
I mean, there's a lot of things that I feel that I wanted more than the next guy, but guess what? Still didn't make me get those things that I wanted. So I don't know what that really means. You know? There's a lot of girls that I wanted more than my classmates, and they seem to have got some of them, and they slipped through my fingers. So just because I want something more doesn't really mean I'm going to get it. I mean, I just have to be real about that. I'm not proud to admit it, but I got to deal with reality. I don't think Oshaki Foster lacks for hunger at all. I mean, he dug down deep. He really wanted to win that Hernandez fight. He was away. The deck was stacked against him. He was losing the fight. And if the only way he won that fight was because he wanted it more, you know? So, yeah, I don't agree with that statement. The thing about Oshak Foster, though, is he's just such a precision type fighter, man. This guy's a sharpshooter, man. He is a sharpshooter. He's really, really good at, opening up his opponent. He's another one of those guys that can just kind of peck and prod at you a little bit, get you to react, kind of get his opponent to a false sense of security. Like Hernandez thought that he was in control of that fight, right? Because for long periods of time in that fight, Shock was just kind of like, a little pitter pat here, a little touch here, a little throwaway here. He would sneak a hard shot in there every now and then, but he said to himself, this guy's reacting to where I'm placing these shots, and I'm starting to create some openings here, and I'm just going to wait just for the right time. And boom, he was threw that beautiful right hand in there. Yeah, Nova, I think Calix made some great points here. I just think a lot of people are telling me this is going to be a very competitive fight. Maestro's telling me this is a 50-50 fight. I think you said this could be a competitive fight as well. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah.
But I just think that I think Oshaki Foster is I think he's just got too much for Nova. I think Nova is a little bit out of his depth here. I really do. I don't think he's going to be hard to find, and I don't think he's going to be hard to hit. And I'm going to go with the stop. I'm pretty confident Shock stops him. I think Shock's going to stop him in 10.
Oh,
I do. I like that. I like that play. I like that.
Right.
Play.
Now, just as a reminder for everybody watching this, the fight's not on Saturday. It is tomorrow on Friday. And also for anybody tuning in at the top of this, like at 9 p.m. Eastern. That's when the Zone will have the Jojo Diaz card as well. If you guys want to tune in and watch that as well. Mario is first of all, did you anticipate like the Garden Theater? Just had a stinker the other day. Will this cleanse us of that stinker? Will this be an exciting fight, or do you think it's going to be another live ESPN dud? That's number one. And second, who wins this fight?
I'll answer that first. I'm going to pick Shock in this one. I think he does win. I'm betting on an exciting fight. I am betting on an exciting fight because I've seen Abraham Nova fight so much. I've seen Foster fight so much. And the fact that I've seen them both fight so much is what would scare me about Calix and Beeb's bet. It's not that I don't see that as a possibility. It's that both men, and really more Foster than anybody, have the ability to come in and not be what we think they can be. Like he can be boring. I'm just going to say it. Like he can come in and he can really dull, and it puts him in a position where he has to make the fight. And that's something I've really never seen out of Foster. I've never seen Foster make the fight. Maybe, around here or there, some moments here or there, but essentially he's a guy who's going to let the fight script play out based on what his opponent's doing. And that's a tactic boxers use. I'm not hating on that. It's just that when you are so willing not to drive the fight script, the fight can get away from you and it can be boring. And the fact that he's got, I think, like a 50% knockout rate or something like that, like, I don't know, there's just a lot of variables in there. But Calix said it best. This is one of the best stories in boxing, under the radar. And Foster's a guy who a lot of people lost hope in. And they even try to set him up again. Like this is a crazy type of fight when you think about it, because Abraham Nova during the bubble was the guy they seemed to be pushing. He's only lost one fight to Robisi, who, that's a solid fighter. Abraham's looked great. He's looked fun. He's looked, solid. But the fact that Tim could say that, this is a fight that, like, you don't know what Foster wants or doesn't want. Like, are you kidding? Like, that kid came from the mud. You don't think that he wants it? You think he's sleeping on silk sheets after winning this WBC belt? Look, maybe. I can't say for sure. But all I know is that based on following his career, he doesn't seem like that guy. He seems like a guy who's going to come out and try to win the whole thing. And that's why I think that Calix and Beeb's bet does have a chance, because the way he's talked in the lead up, Foster seems so committed to this role of being the best version and being the guy in the division. Whether he believes it or not, it doesn't matter, because his confidence is so sky high right now that he believes it walking in the ring. And Abraham Nova, on the other hand, doesn't give that same feeling. He's been in fights where it almost feels like he's the B side when he is the A side. You know what I mean? Like it's a weird situation, but this could be a really fun fight. And one last thing I'm going to say is that it gives me like Friday Night Fight vibes, and the fact what Pro Box has been able to do and the great fights they've been putting on, like, this is great. Like Saturday is a great time for boxing. It really is. Okay. But we need these little like Tuesday night fights, Friday night fights, Thursday night fights. Like they're fun. They, get everybody kind of together on a week that nothing's on TV. Nobody's really doing anything. And these are the moments on free TV that every American can see. This is the opportunity to make a stand. This is an opportunity to make yourself known, to get on every single SportsCenter replay in every bar in America, and all the casual fans look up and see this amazing performance. That's going to help them. Unlike the Teo fight, which was not entertaining and was on at like fucking 12 a.m. in the East Coast, where his primary fan base is. That was crazy.
Hey, Calix, are you going to call your brother and let him know to watch this one? Is this the one he's going to watch, or what's up?
I don't want to do that again. I told him to watch Teofimo, and that didn't go well.
Okay, well, it is what it is.
I'm gonna leave him alone. If he finds it, he finds it.
All right. Okay. All right. Lyndon, are you guys getting this fight in Australia, or is it like?
No, we're not. No, it's all. Yeah, it's tough. Like it's sort of a little bit hit and miss. We obviously get the zone here now, but the top ranked fights, if they're not on a Saturday night over there, we just won't get them. No.
Oh wow. Okay.
DM me, Lyndon. I got you a link.
Man, well,
Thanks,
that's
man.
what it is. There you go. All right. So one more topic to wrap this one up. We got a big announcement, of course. It was earlier in the week. Devin the Dream Haney against Ryan Garcia
don't
on
do that.
420. Now I know Mario. I don't want to say it too loud. That Mario's gonna pop out with a pipe, and you know what I mean.
Defamation.
I don't even know Mario's gonna watch this fight. I mean, he's gonna be busy doing some other recreational stuff. But that's illegal in Texas. Mario still is. I'm just saying. All right,
decriminalized.
But either way, thoughts on the fight, and do you give Haney or Garcia a reasonable shot? Do you think people are overlooking him too much here, Mario?
No, not at all. I think that this was a very strange decision. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to fight Devin Haney at a new weight class, great. But, you know, you got like you're coming off the Tank fight last year, like, you know, build, you know, let's build some up if you want to get to that point, because I don't think that in a matter of time between the Tank fight and when he'll fight Devin, that he has accelerated his ability to the point where he has a live chance against Devin Haney. I'm picking Devin Haney. One of you put this on Twitter today, and I'm sorry I forgot who it was, but one of you put that y'all thought that you know, Haney, the father, was shocked that they got this fight. I thought it was you, Callie. But the thing is I think that's true. I don't think that the Haneys even remotely thought they were going to land this fight. I think that for a while they thought that they were being used as clout. And then when the shitstorm happened with Ryan, I think that's what broke everything down. You see, Ryan came out, said he was going to fight, who was it? Pitbull, right? And then the next day they announced Pitbull Rolly, and he looks like a clown. So what he's doing is he's overcompensating. It's like, I got to look like a clown. Now I have to come back and fight somebody for real. Listen, Oscar has tried so hard to bring this kid along the right way. You know, he had talked about a Ramirez fight, which I thought would have been the perfect fight, or one of the perfect fights for Ryan coming up. But the situation has just gotten so weird. Like, this is a kid in Ryan Garcia who I very much admire the fact that he wants to fight the best. But you got to put in the work to be the best. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's not enough to just say, I'll fight everybody. You got to get to the gym. You know, this kid does more podcasts and social media stuff than anyone else. Like, I mean, he was just on Bobby, what's her name? Adolph's podcast, this past week. And it's like, he is this media force on IG and TikTok and Facebook. But as hard as he works to bring up his brand, he needs to work doubly as hard to bring up his ability. It's the only shot he's got against Haney.
Man. What do you think of the fight, Joe? And do you think Ryan has a better chance than the odds say? He's pretty wide underdog, or do you think it's even a bigger mismatch?
No, I think the odds are really pretty accurate here. I think they're very accurate. Yeah, I'm just not sold on Ryan right now. I'm just not, and I think Haney is going to get better and continue to get better, and he has gotten better. And this is the fight that Haney needed. You know, it's not the most difficult fight for Haney, but this is a breakthrough fight for Haney. This is a fight that's going to kind of put him on the map to the mainstream, and that's good for Haney. I don't know, Ryan. I've just been listening to him. I've been watching him, and I just don't think he's 100% focused on boxing. Takes no accountability for anything. And whenever you have a guy who doesn't really need to box, because he probably makes just as much money outside the ring that he does in, right? So he doesn't need this. He doesn't have to do this. So, and then I watched the last fight with who's the guy he fought? The guy that the hell's that guy? The guy that had the guy from
Duarte.
Thank you, Alex. Yeah, the guy Duarte that had to come up in weight, and he was cowering away from him. You know what I mean? And this was a guy coming up in weight, and it was turning his back and stuff. Yeah, I just think Devin Haney's gonna probably piece him up in this fight. And Calix and I talked about this on Twitter. If Ryan gets put in a similar situation that Prograves was put in, where he's just getting tagged left and right, getting knocked down, getting hit flush, I don't know, man. Either he or his corner may just throw in the towel. And I don't like, using the Q word when I describe fighters, but he did give in that fight with Tank. I mean, he may have been injured, probably was, but he did give in that fight. And once you give in one time, it's easier to keep doing that. So I would not be surprised. I know this sounds crazy, but I would not be surprised. And I may lay a little something on Haney to win by stoppage here. I'm just being honest. So yeah, I think it's a great fight in terms of marketability. I don't think it'll be a great fight in terms of competitiveness. If I'm being honest.
Okay. Lyndon, what do you think of the matchup? And do you think Ryan has a better shot than the odds are saying?
I love the fight, and again, it goes back to my point earlier, is that, just excuse the banging if you can hear it there, got some renovations going on. But I love the fight, the fact that we have two, can you hear me okay there? Sorry about that.
Yeah, we hear you. Yeah.
Two elite fighters agreeing to fight. Now, whether it's the right fight for both of them, I think Haney definitely a great fight for him. I really applaud him as well by continuing to take on these great tests one after the other. Could easily probably take an easier type of fight. But I agree with Mario that I'm not sure, even though I love the fight, I'm not quite sure it's the right career move for Garcia, because I don't see him winning this fight. And I think the Ramiro fight would have been a lot better for him. Obviously, there's a lot of other factors at play why that fight didn't happen. I think everyone except Ryan knew the fight wasn't going to happen. But yeah, it's an interesting one, because if he loses his fight to Haney, where does he go? He's a fighter that's really built on his image, obviously the social media side of things as well. So where does he go after this if he can't beat Haney? That's the big issue. And I applaud him for taking the fight. I really do. Oscar for taking the fight on his behalf. But I just don't think it's the right fight for him right here and now. The Ramiro fight would have made a lot better sense. Maybe even one of the other guys, maybe it was Matias or one of these guys as well, and maybe leave that Haney fight for another maybe 12 months. But again, I welcome the fight. I think I'd rather be talking about why these fights are being made than not talking about them at all. And I think the trend in boxing at the moment, where we're getting these big names fighting each other more regularly, I welcome it with open arms. So I can't wait for the fight itself. But Haney, for me, all day, every day, I think he wins clearly on points and pretty much outclasses Ryan, I think.
Okay. All right. Calix, same question to you. What do you think?
So there's this guy, Bryce Hall, that I think he's a TikToker, YouTuber, whatever, and he's got one pro fight, but he has some sort of online beef with Ryan Garcia, and I think Ryan Garcia's father is suing him for $10,000. But the guy Bryce Hall did a video yesterday that I found interesting because it told us something, and he's basically calling Ryan Garcia, from what I'm hearing, and Beeb, you've talked about this in the past. You didn't think Floyd was all that liquid, and maybe he's not. I don't think Ryan's liquid as far as assets. I think Ryan has a lot of assets. And he's got a lot of overhead as far as this guy's saying, because he's got a lot of children. He's got a lot of child support, baby mama drama. I think he needs to fight for the money. I know he's got other things, multiple different avenues he can make money, but the foundation of that 10 million Instagram followers and all this stuff, the foundation is he's a fighter. And he needs to fight, and I think he needs to be in big money fights. I think he needs to have this money coming in. So I say this to say, I was looking at Ryan in his recent resume. So this will be 2 fights against Tank and Devin in 12 months. And that's saying something. You got to give him credit for that. But is he doing that for the right reasons? Is he just in that for the money? Or is he in that because he wants to win those fights? And Devin Haney says something on Twitter that I found interesting a couple of days ago, saying what you said, but he said it. He said the Q word. He said he quit. And I think he quit. And I think he quit because he wanted to win. And I think he quit because he wanted to win. And I think he quit because he wanted to win. And I think he quit because he wanted to win. And I think he quit because he wanted to win. And I think he quit because he wanted to win. And I think he quit because he wanted to win. And I think he quit because he wanted to win. And I think he quit because he wanted to win. And I think he quit because he wanted to win. And I think he quit because he wanted to win. And I think he quit because he wanted to win. And I think he quit because he wanted to win. And I think he quit because he wanted to win. And I think he quit because he wanted to win. And I think he quit because he wanted to win. And I think he quit because he wanted to win. And I think he quit because he wanted to win. And I think he quit because he wanted to win. And I think he quit because he wanted to win. And I think he quit because he wanted to win. And I think he quit because he wanted to win. And I think he quit because he wanted to win. And I think he quit because he wanted to win. And I think he quit because he wan and I'm gonna make him quit again. Once a quitter, always a quitter. He has that quitter in him, and I'm gonna bring it out of him. And I believe Devin when he says that. I think Bill and Devin are sitting behind closed doors right now, just shocked that they got this fight. And I think they're looking at the career arc trajectory of Devin Haney, and they have to be doing something right, putting the right vibes out, because you look at his career, he's going Linares, Diaz, Cambosos, and you saw how they reacted when Cambosos won in the living room when they're watching the fight. Lomachenko and Prograis, and they go through that undefeated, right? So you got to give them credit for that. But now they got Ryan Garcia on the table. So it just keeps it's building and building and building. You got to give them credit. But I think the odds are right. I would even maybe put them wider. 7-1 favorite for Devin Haney. I think this is a mismatch. I see Ryan. He's just as explosive and as athletic as Tank and Devin, but he can't put it together. Those guys are locked in the ring. Devin is very disciplined as a fighter, He's always got his footwork right. He works behind the jab. And now it looks like at 140, he's finding his man strength a little bit. So we'll see how that goes. But I think there's levels here, and there may be more than one level separating these guys. And I think that's going to show April 20th. I think Devin's going to win this fight easy. And at that point, I don't know where Ryan goes, but I think he has to continue to make money. So he'll continue to be in these fights because people see him as easy prey.
Easy prey for a lot of money. And one thing I'll say is this, and I know Bill talked about the preparation for the Lomachenko fight, right? And he talked about taking away Loma's best weapon, right? And he actually praised Loma for being able to still adapt and you know what I mean, and find a way to around that. But nonetheless, they did do a good job taking away the main weapon of Lomachenko for the majority of that fight. Loma's just such a great fighter; he was able to adjust. Well, with Ryan, we all know he's a one. Like you take away his hook, okay, well, what does he got? We know they're going to take it with a hook, right? And if he can't land that hook, Ryan's got nothing on Haney. I think it's going to be a beatdown. Now, what I guess we're all asking the same question: is it going to go decision, or is he going to stop Ryan? And a lot of people find it hard to believe that he'll stop Ryan because Haney's not known as a knockout artist. Makes total sense.
I think he's going to stop him. I think he's going to stop him.
Here's the thing. Not even Josh Taylor knocked down Prograis. All right, Prograis has been hit by some dudes like a crack. I do think I'm starting to believe the theory that this guy was training himself to make 135, and at 140 he just has more power. He impressed me with the way he stunned Prograis several times in that fight, and I agree with what you're saying, babe. If he's in that same position, he may just say peace out. I
gotta reveal something to you, man. You gotta look at some of these Instagram training photos of Haney, man. He's doing deadlifts. I mean, this guy looks like a superhero. And I don't want to get too overzealous here, but this guy looks jacked right now.
You're getting too overzealous.
Get a little too overzealous. I gotta reel it back in.
Yeah. This is where guys D-style, they need to realize that, look, Mayweather's one of one. He decisioned guys late in his career and kept getting bigger, but these guys need to show out in those spots. And if that stoppage presents itself, Haney needs to go for it. And he's got an opportunity here that's fell into his lap of showing out in front of a lot of people, and he needs to do that. He needs to just not go and coast to a decision, because I've talked about it. Haney is going to be as boring as you allow him to be, but he needs to ditch that. And when he gets in those moments throughout this fight where he can stop Ryan Garcia, and that presents itself, he needs to go for it.
100%. Before I go, guys, make sure I did put the link to Lyndon's channel. You guys, you're going to go out there and support him. Shout out to Lyndon and Boxing Deep Dive. We always appreciate everybody that comes on the RoundTable. So much appreciated. Hey, Lyndon, before we go, you have any? Just let everybody know where they can find you, what you got going on in your channel, and all that.
Yeah, Boxing Deep Dive, of course, you shared that. Thanks very much. We have our weekly Talking Boxing show. I'm not quite sure what time it is on over here, but for Monday night in Australia, and we've got our weekly roundup and all sorts of different videos going on. So good news for you, actually, too, D-Style, just on a different note before we go. Might be some resolution on the streaming issues that we've had with Australian fights going to America, because Ace Boxing here in Australia has just signed a deal with 7+. Now, Channel 7 is one of our mainstream channels. They have access to stream with them, so there might be a possibility of getting these big Aussie fights over to you guys live. So there might be some light at the end of the rainbow in that regards. So big news here in Australia about that.
Well, there we go. That sounds great. There we go. All right, everybody. This is D-Style Boxing. Keep it boxing. We're out of here. Peace.
Thanks, guys.